They thought banishment was our end, but for humans it was only the beginning. While the galaxy turned its back, we carved out an empire so vast they could only whisper our name in fear. This is the story of how exile made us stronger. Thy Judgment and the Awakening. The silence in the great assembly hall was crushing. Ambassador Marcus Drake stood alone at the center of the vast circular chamber, surrounded by representatives from 3,000 alien civilizations. Above him, holographic displays showed the final vote count in stark blue numbers that seemed to burn into his retinas. 2,997 votes for exile, 3 votes against, 0 abstentions. The Krillian speaker, a towering, insect-like being with crystalline wings, clicked her mandibles in what passed for satisfaction among her species. The judgment is final, she announced, her voice echoing through the chamber's perfect acoustics. The species known as humanity is hereby banished from galactic civilization. All trade agreements are void. All diplomatic relations are severed. All access to galactic space lanes is forbidden. Marcus kept his face perfectly still, showing none of the emotions churning beneath the surface. Around him, alien delegates celebrated. The slug-like Vorthians pulsed with bioluminescent patterns of joy. The graceful Etherians hummed melodic harmonies that spoke of relief. Even the usually stoic mechanical collective's representatives flashed satisfied status lights. They were also pleased to be rid of the dangerous, unpredictable humans, the species that refused to follow proper protocols, the race that asked too many questions and pushed too many boundaries, the civilization that made everyone uncomfortable with their chaotic energy and relentless curiosity. "Do you have any final words, Human Drake?" the Krillian speaker asked, her compound eyes reflecting the chamber's lights like 1,000 tiny mirrors. Marcus smiled, and something in that expression made several nearby delegates shift nervously in their seats. "Just one thing," he said, his voice carrying clearly through the vast space. "Thank you." The speaker's antennae twitched in confusion. "Thank you?" "For making this decision so easy for us," Marcus continued. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small communication device, its human design looking crude and primitive compared to the elegant alien technology surrounding them. "Computer, execute Protocol 7. A soft beep echoed from the device. In response, Marcus spoke a single word: freedom. On Earth, President Linda Hayes received the signal in her underground command bunker, deep beneath the Colorado mountains. The room was packed with military officers, scientists, and civilian leaders, all of them waiting for this exact moment. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced to the assembled crowd, "Phase 1 is complete. They took the bait perfectly." She turned to the large tactical display showing Earth's solar system. "General Morrison, begin Operation New Dawn." General Robert Morrison nodded grimly. "All units, this is command. The galaxy has made their choice. Now we make ours. Launch all colony ships immediately." Across the solar system, things that had looked like asteroid mining stations suddenly came to life. Hidden doors opened in what appeared to be natural rock formations, revealing massive spacecraft that had been carefully disguised for the past 5 years. The ships were unlike anything humanity had ever built before: sleek, powerful vessels, designed for one purpose: to carry human civilization to the stars the galaxy considered too dangerous to explore. The first wave consisted of 50 colony ships, each capable of carrying 100,000 people along with everything needed to establish new worlds. But these weren't desperate refugees fleeing into exile. These were carefully selected pioneers heading toward destinations that had been chosen years in advance. Dr. Sarah Williams, humanity's leading xenobiology expert, supervised the launch from the command ship Explorer's Pride. She watched through the viewports as Earth fell away behind them, not with sadness but with excitement. "Navigation, confirm our heading," she ordered. "Course confirmed, Doctor," replied the young officer at the navigation station. "Kepler 442 system, estimated arrival in 18 months. Sarah nodded with satisfaction. The galaxy considered Kepler 442 uninhabitable due to its extreme radiation levels. What they didn't know was that humanity had spent decades developing technology that could not only survive in such environments but actually thrive in them. The radiation that would kill most galactic species would power human cities and fuel human industry. Meanwhile, on Luna's hidden side, massive construction facilities that had been disguised as research stations revealed their true purpose. Shipyards that had been building humanity's future fleet while the galaxy watched Earth through their surveillance networks. The vessels emerging from these yards were warships, but not in any traditional sense. They were designed to explore and defend the dangerous regions of space that no other species dared to approach. Captain James Chen commanded one of these new vessels, the Prometheus. His ship was heading toward the Veil Nebula, a region the galaxy had marked as completely lifeless due to its crushing gravitational anomalies. Chen's crew of volunteers saw it as the perfect place to establish a research station where humanity could study the fundamental forces of the universe without anyone looking over their shoulders. Back in the Galactic Assembly, the celebrations had begun to quiet as delegates started to notice something strange. The human ambassador was still smiling, and that smile was growing wider. "Is there something you find amusing about your exile?" demanded the Etherian representative, her melodic voice taking on harsh overtones. "Oh, absolutely," Marcus replied. "You see, you've all made a critical error in judgment. You assumed exile was a punishment." He gestured toward the great windows that showed the stars beyond. "But humans have been exiles before. We were exiled from Africa and spread across Earth. We were exiled from our home planet and spread across the solar system. Now you're exiling us from your comfortable little galactic civilization." The chamber had grown completely silent now. Even the mechanical beings had stopped their quiet humming. Marcus continued, his voice growing stronger with each word. "Every time someone has tried to limit humanity, to contain us, to tell us where we can and cannot go, we've responded the same way. We've taken it as an invitation to prove them wrong. You've just given us permission to do what we do best. Survive, adapt, and thrive in places you think are impossible to live." The Krillian speaker's wings rattled with agitation. "You cannot survive without galactic support. The regions beyond our space are deadly, uninhabitable. You will die out." "There, maybe," Marcus admitted with a shrug. "But if we do survive, if we do find a way to live in your impossible places and thrive in your uninhabitable regions, what do you think that will make us?" He paused, letting the implications sink in. "It will make us everything you were afraid. We already were, but without any reason to play by your rules anymore." The ambassador began walking toward the chamber's exit, his footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. At the doorway, he turned back one final time. "The vote to exile humanity has been recorded and accepted," he said formally. "Earth's diplomatic mission to the Galactic Assembly is now closed. We thank you for your hospitality during our brief membership, and we wish you well in your future endeavors." His smile returned, bright and confident. "We'll be sure to send you a postcard from the impossible places where you think nothing can live." As the doors closed behind him, Marcus could hear the first stirrings of nervous conversation beginning in the chamber. Some delegates were asking questions that perhaps should have been asked before the vote. Others were demanding to know what the human had meant by his cryptic words. But Marcus was already thinking ahead to the future. In 20 years, maybe 30, the galaxy would start receiving strange signals from the dead zones they'd considered worthless. They would detect energy readings from regions where nothing should be able to survive. They would begin to realize that exile hadn't contained humanity. It had freed them. By then, it would be far too late to undo the choice they'd made today. Humanity would be something new, something adapted to the harsh realities of the universe's most dangerous places. Something that wouldn't need anyone's permission to exist. The galaxy had voted to exile Earth. But they'd forgotten to ask the most important question: what would Earth become when it was finally free to be itself? The Rise Beyond the Stars. 10. Years had passed since the Great Assembly had voted to exile humanity from galactic civilization. In the comfortable core worlds where the major species lived, most had forgotten about the strange, aggressive humans entirely. The Krillians focused on their crystal cultivation projects. The Vorthians developed new bioluminescent art forms. The Etherians composed symphonies celebrating the peace that had returned to the galaxy, now that the chaotic human element had been removed. None of them were paying attention to the warning signals coming from their outer monitoring stations. Commander Zixtal of the Krillian Border Patrol was the first to notice something was wrong. Her ship, the Harmony's Edge, was conducting a routine survey of the Kepler 442 system when her sensors began displaying readings that made no sense. Navigation officer, she clicked through her mandibles. Are you certain we're in the correct system? These energy readings suggest massive industrial activity, but this system is listed as uninhabitable due to radiation levels. The young Krillian at the sensor station double-checked his instruments. Confirmed, Commander. We are in the Kepler 442 system. But you're right about the energy readings. I'm detecting power generation that exceeds most core world capitals, and the signatures are coming from the planetary surface. Zixtal's compound eyes focused on the main display. The radiation levels in this system should have made it impossible for any known form of life to survive, let alone establish an industrial civilization. Yet her instruments clearly showed not just signs of life, but signs of a thriving technological society. Take us closer, she ordered, but maintain maximum shielding. I want to know what's generating those power readings. As the Harmony's Edge approached the radiation-soaked planet, Zixtal's crew gasped in unison. Through the viewports, they could see massive cities stretching across continents, their lights twinkling in the deadly atmosphere like stars fallen to Earth. Orbital platforms surrounded the planet, and strange vessels moved between them with purpose and grace. Commander, whispered her communications officer, I'm receiving a transmission. It's in standard Galactic, but the accent is unfamiliar. Put it through, Zixtal ordered, her wings trembling slightly. A human face appeared on the main screen. The woman appeared to be in her 30s with brown hair and bright eyes that seemed to sparkle with an inner energy. But there was something different about her, something that made Zixtal's ancient instincts whisper warnings. The human's movements were too quick, too precise, and her eyes seemed to see everything at once. Greetings, Krillian vessel, the human said with a warm smile. This is Governor Elena Martinez of Kepler Colony Prime. Welcome to human space. I assume you're here because you detected our energy signatures? Zixtal found her voice. Human space? But this system is uninhabitable. The radiation levels would kill any organic life within hours. Elena's smile widened. Any normal organic life, yes. But humans aren't really normal, are we? We've had 10 years to adapt to our new homes. The radiation here doesn't kill us anymore. It powers our cities and enhances our capabilities. Would you like a tour? Before Zixtal could respond, more ships appeared around the Harmony's Edge. But these weren't the crude vessels humanity had possessed during their brief membership in galactic civilization. These ships moved like living things, their hulls seeming to drink in the deadly radiation that was slowly cooking the Krillian vessel's shielding. Your ship wasn't designed for this environment, Elena observed with what seemed like genuine concern. Your radiation shielding is already failing. Shall we escort you to the edge of the system before you take permanent damage? Zixtal realized, with growing horror, that the human was right. Her ship's defensive systems were being overwhelmed by radiation that the human vessels seemed to thrive in. How are you doing this? How are you surviving here? Evolution, Elena replied simply. When you're forced to live in impossible conditions, you either die or become impossible yourself. Humanity chose the second option. She gestured behind her, and the view expanded to show the interior of a vast space station. This is Research Platform Genesis. We're currently conducting experiments in stellar engineering that would have been considered fantasy a decade ago. The images on the screen showed human scientists working with energies that shouldn't exist, manipulating matter at the quantum level, and most incredibly, humans walking around in conditions that should have reduced them to ash in seconds. We've established colonies in over 200 star systems now, Elena continued conversationally, all of them in regions your people marked as uninhabitable. The crushing gravity of Wolf 359 has made our people stronger. The quantum storms of the Veil Nebula taught us to manipulate space-time. The absolute cold of the rogue planets showed us how to extract energy from vacuum itself. Zixtal's crew was silent, processing the implications of what they were hearing. Humanity hadn't just survived their exile. They had used it to become something beyond the galaxy's understanding. "What do you want from us?" Zixtal finally asked. Elena's expression grew thoughtful. "That's an interesting question. 10 years ago, we might have wanted recognition or trade agreements or simply acceptance. But we're past needing those things now. We've built our own civilization, one that exists in places you can't follow and operates on principles you don't understand." The transmission showed images of human children playing in radiation storms, human artists creating beauty from stellar chaos, human farmers growing food in the hearts of dying stars. It was a civilization that had been forced to transcend the normal limitations of organic life. "However," Elena continued, "we remember that there were 3 votes against our exile. 3 species who believed that cooperation was better than exclusion. We've been keeping track of them, and we're prepared to offer them something special." Zixtal leaned forward. "What kind of offer?" "The same choice we give to all intelligent species we encounter in our expansion," Elena replied. "Join us in pushing the boundaries of what's possible, or stay safe in your comfortable limitations. We'll teach any species willing to learn how to survive in impossible conditions, how to thrive where life supposedly can't exist, how to extract energy from the fundamental forces of the universe." The screen filled with images of human colonies, bringing life to dead worlds, human technology rekindling dying stars, human explorers mapping regions of space that no other species had ever dared to approach. "But understand," Elena's voice grew serious, "if you choose to join us, you'll have to give up the safety of the known. You'll have to accept that comfort is the enemy of growth. You'll have to become more than what you currently are." Zixtal felt something stirring in her chest that she hadn't experienced in centuries. Excitement. "And if we choose not to join you?" Elena shrugged. "Then you continue living exactly as you are now. We have no interest in conquering your comfortable worlds or forcing our way of life on species that prefer safety to growth. The universe is vast enough for all of us." The communication ended, leaving Zixtal and her crew in stunned silence. As the human vessels escorted them safely out of the radiation zone, Zixtal found herself making a decision that would change everything. "Communications officer," she ordered, "open a priority channel to the Galactic Assembly. Tell them we need an emergency session. Tell them humanity has returned, but not in any way we expected." "What should we tell them about human intentions?" the officer asked nervously. Zixtal looked back at the impossible city lights glowing in the deadly radiation of Kepler 442. "Tell them that humanity isn't asking for readmission to our civilization. They're inviting us to join theirs." 3 months later, the same great assembly hall that had voted to exile humanity was packed with delegates desperate to understand what the humans had become. The evidence was overwhelming: colonies in impossible locations, technology that defied known physics, and reports of human beings who had evolved beyond the basic limitations of organic life. The debate raged for days. Some species demanded immediate military action to contain what they saw as a growing threat. Others argued for negotiation and possible cooperation. The youngest species in the assembly asked why they were even debating. If humans could teach them to survive in previously impossible conditions, wasn't that exactly what the galaxy needed as they faced the long-term challenges of cosmic entropy and resource depletion? Elena Martinez, now representing all of human space, stood at the same podium where Marcus Drake had received humanity's exile sentence 10 years earlier. But she was not asking for anything. She was simply offering. "The choice is yours," she told the assembly. "You can continue to exist as you always have, safe and comfortable in your familiar worlds. Or you can join us in pushing the boundaries of what intelligent life can achieve. We'll teach you to thrive in the heart of stars, to build homes in the void between galaxies, to extract energy from the quantum foam itself." She paused, looking around at the thousands of alien faces watching her. 10 years ago, you voted to exile humanity because you were afraid of our potential. You were right to be afraid, not because we would destroy your civilization, but because we would show you that there was so much more to existence than the safe boundaries you'd built around yourselves. The vote, when it finally came, was closer than anyone expected. 47% voted to establish formal relations with human space. 31% voted for continued isolation. 22% chose to send diplomatic missions to learn more about human capabilities. Elena smiled as the results were announced. It was a beginning, and beginnings were what humans did best. As she prepared to leave the assembly for the second time in human history, Elena was approached by a young Etherian delegate whose species had voted for cooperation. Ambassador Martinez, the alien sang in harmonious tones, "My people are curious about something. If exile made humanity stronger, what would partnership make us?" Asterisk comments for next.